She was running late, coffee in hand, heartbeat racing, just another morning between deadlines and exhaustion. Then, a stumble. Scalding liquid splashed across the crisp suit of a stranger who turned ever so slowly, his expression unreadable. A hush settled, the kind that tells you something more than embarrassment is about to unfold. She apologized, once, twice, but the look in his eyes wasn't anger, it was warning. Moments later, as whispers spread through the lobby, she realized this wasn't about coffee at all. It was about who she was and how the world decided she didn't belong. What really happened that morning would shake more than her nerves. It would shake an entire city's conscience. Before that morning, Jasmine's life rarely brushed against danger or privilege. She worked at a downtown cafe, juggling long shifts and night classes in design, saving every spare dollar for her portfolio. Mornings were her calm before the day's rush, music in her earbuds, coffee in one hand, sketchbook in the other. She'd learned to navigate the city's invisible lines, unspoken rules about which smiles got returned and which doors stayed closed. That day felt no different. The conference she was catering seemed routine, another luxury event full of suits and practiced charm. She told herself to keep her head down, stay professional, make it through the morning. But when she turned the corner into that gleaming marble lobby, everything changed, because one spilled cup would expose something much darker than clumsiness.
The coffee hit his sleeve like a brown comet, splattering across immaculate white fabric. Jasmine froze, her apology tumbling out before she even looked up. But when she did, her breath caught, not because of the man, but because of the silence that followed. Conversations halted. A bodyguard moved between them, his frame blocking the light. He stared down at her as if she'd done far more than spill a drink. She reached into her apron for napkins, mumbling another apology, but his words cut through the tension like glass. "Do you know who you just offended?" The phrase wasn't loud, yet it carried, rippling through the lobby until she could feel the weight of every gaze pressing down on her. Whispers stirred around her. "Mafia prince," someone murmured. "She's in trouble." Jasmine almost laughed from disbelief. It sounded absurd, like something ripped from an old movie. But no one else was laughing. Security guards closed ranks, and for the first time she noticed who occupied that space. A sea of expensive suits and polished shoes, not one pair matching hers. The man she'd splashed finally spoke, his tone measured, almost amused. He dabbed his sleeve with a cloth offered by his guard, eyes never leaving her. His calmness made it worse. Jasmine's gut screamed that something deeper was happening here. Not clumsiness, not irritation, something ancient, an unspoken rule being enforced right in front of everyone. When her manager rushed over, Jasmine exhaled in relief, expecting him to apologize for the incident and smooth things over. Instead, he turned to her, eyes wide with panic. Softly but firmly he said, "Go home, now." His voice trembled, not for her, but for himself. As Jasmine packed her things in the back room, the walls seemed to close in. Every whisper from the hallway carried judgment. A coworker wouldn't meet her gaze. The same lobby she'd proudly walked into hours earlier now felt like forbidden ground. She had humiliated the wrong man, and everyone seemed to know it. Later that day, the cafe announced she'd been temporarily suspended, no explanation given. Online, photos from someone's phone began circulating. The caption twisted the story into something cruel. "Rude waitress disrespects client." Overnight, the internet decided her character, her worth, and her punishment. By the next morning, she found her name trending beside hashtags she couldn't bear to read. Strangers called her entitled, ungrateful, even dangerous. Her face appeared on feeds next to luxury cars and men in tailored suits, with stories implying she deserved what happened. And in the middle of it all, silence.
from the cafe, from law enforcement, from anyone who might stand beside her. Every door she tried to open next seemed to lock from the inside. The quiet discrimination she'd learned to endure had erupted into something visible, vicious. She wondered if she'd ever find her way back to normal, or if her mistake had become a sentence. And yet, beneath the fear, something inside her began to stir, because the truth wasn't what the world believed, and Jasmine was about to learn what happens when silence becomes the only weapon left. Jasmine thought the worst was the online storm, but she was wrong. Days later, she was summoned to a private meeting at the hotel where it all began. Her heart pounded as she walked through marble halls that now felt like corridors of judgment. The same bodyguard waited by the elevator, expression unreadable, voice cold as he told her to follow quietly. They led her into a conference room lined with glass, where the man she'd spilled coffee on sat, flanked by associates. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Every word was measured, deliberate, wrapped in the calm cruelty of power. He told her the cafe had handled things appropriately, that accidents have consequences, and that she should be grateful this ends quietly. She wanted to explain how it was only coffee, how she never meant harm, how everything had spun out of control. But as she tried to speak, a security guard slid a non-disclosure form across the table. It stated that she would never discuss the incident publicly. If she wanted peace, she'd sign. No apology, no justice, just silence. Her hands trembled. She thought of her mother's advice, of the stories they'd whispered growing up about who gets to make mistakes and who doesn't. She could already hear her mother's voice. Keep your head down. Stay safe. But this time, the cost of silence felt unbearable. Jasmine pushed the paper back across the table. The man's smile faded as he realized she wouldn't yield. When she walked out, the weight of every camera lens, every whisper trailed her like shadows. She didn't know what would come next, only that, for the first time, fear wasn't the loudest voice inside her. Outside, reporters waited, flashes lighting up the evening like lightning. Her story, twisted and smeared, was already alive, but now so was her voice, and what she said next would change everything. The headlines moved on within a week, but Jasmine's world never returned to its quiet rhythm. The cafe replaced her. The online accounts that had shamed her quietly deleted their posts, pretending the storm had never existed. Yet the echoes remained. Every time she walked past a security desk or saw someone glance too long, she felt the invisible lines society had drawn around her. Still, silence didn't win. The video of that meeting surfaced. Someone, somewhere, had recorded the quiet coercion. Overnight, the same feeds that mocked her began asking questions. People saw what she had faced. Not just embarrassment over spilled coffee, but the machinery of status crushing someone it deemed disposable. When journalists reached out, Jasmine spoke, but not about revenge. She talked about fear, about dignity, about what it feels like to be punished for existing in the wrong space. Her voice shook, but it carried. Students reposted her story with #ItWasn'tJustCoffee. Marches followed. Conversations began in workplaces, classrooms, and kitchens about who is allowed grace and who must always earn forgiveness. Jasmine didn't get her old job back, but in standing up, she found something different, her own worth, unmeasured by others' permission. She started working with advocacy groups that fought bias in service industries, turning that single moment of humiliation into momentum for change. And yet, as months passed, her question lingered like a bruise across the heart of everyone who heard her story. How many more Jasmines will it take before a spilled cup stops being mistaken for a crime? Because what happened to her wasn't an accident. It was a mirror, one that shows us who we choose to see when mistakes happen, and who we choose to condemn.